Frontier life was the name given to the westward movement in the United States from the nation's formation in 1776 until 1890. Settlers during this time were primarily lured by land, which they were able to obtain freely or at a very low price. This was an exciting time for many who were moving west, a time filled with opportunity and a fresh start for many families. The settlers, however, also faced many hardships and difficulties on the frontier. They were faced by harsh climates and hostile Native Americans. For a gentleman by the name of William F. Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill, the frontier life was particularly captivating and was the theme for a touring reenacting show that famously traveled for over 30 years, Buffalo Bill's Wild West.
Buffalo Bill's Wild West was first presented in Columbus, Nebraska in 1883. This show ultimately catapulted him to become famous, and it became the most successful touring show of all time. His shows toured numerous places like Great Britain and other parts of Europe, as well as the United States. The goal of the show was to recreate daily life in the West as accurately as possible. The show itself consisted of a series of historical scenes combined with feats of showmanship, sharpshooting, racing, and rodeo-style events. Native Americans were featured prominently in many of the scenes and were often shown attacking whites in historical situations, with Buffalo Bill or one of his colleagues riding in and saving the day. The exact scenes in the show changed over time, but were said to depict typical events like settlers protecting their homesteads, or more specific events like the Battle of Little Bighorn, which happened in this very location in 1876. This particular battle, also known as Custer's Last Stand, was an overwhelming victory for the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho, led by several major war leaders, including Crazy Horse and Gall, inspired by the visions of Sitting Bull, against the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the United States Army, made up of 700 men led by George Armstrong Custer. Because Buffalo Bill had experience with Native Americans in battle, he decided to play up the ferocity and wildness of them in his shows and battles. Buffalo Bill would pay them sufficiently for the performances, and whenever the Native Americans would perform, they liked to wear their nicest clothes. Sitting Bull was paid $50 per week to ride once around the arena during the show, and toured with Buffalo Bill for 4 months. Another one of the most famous characters from the show was Annie Oakley. She was a part of the company for 17 years. Her role consisted of being high-spirited, independent, and an excellent markswoman. Buffalo Bill hired her as the Western woman with similar features as the cowboys in his show. The cowboy was one of the featured members of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Buffalo Bill liked to focus on the lifestyle of the cowboy: independence, skill, savvy, and brazen self-confidence. The cowboy is a symbol of the West in America, and most likely came from the young men involved in cattle drives. The clothing worn by the performers were very traditional and historically depicted the attire of the character role that they were playing. Native American roles were typically done up in war paint, breechcloths, and leggings. Chief roles typically donned more formal dressings that included headdresses, moccasins, and beaded wrap coats. Cowboys' attire included cowboy hats, bandanas, long pants made from canvas or denim, shirts, chaps, and gloves. At the beginning, the audience could enjoy the show for a 10-cent entrance fee. Over time, the cost shifted to 35 cents and then 50 cents. During the first 3 years, the show drew nearly 1 million fans, with net profits reaching nearly $100,000, which was a large profit for the time period. With the introduction of Sitting Bull, influence from Mark Twain, and exhibitions in Europe, attendance reached 20,000 people to 40,000 people per day. The show continued to tour the world for many years until just before the start of World War I. In 1971, the state of Nebraska decided to reenact Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. They started it back up in North Platte, Nebraska, with 120 performers and 132 animals. And it still features professional rodeo cowboys, cowgirls, American Indians, trick ropers, trick riders, and whipcrackers.
When I roll into the Wild Wild West. When I stroll into the Wild Wild West. When I bounce into the Wild Wild West. Disco, disco. Once upon a time in the West, a madman lost his damn mind in the West. Loveless, kidnapper down, nothing less. Now I must put his behind to the test, then through the shadows.